Hey, welcome back. It is the Wake Coaching Podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm Ali.
And we truly believe that, honestly, if you live life by design, you're going to leave an incredible wake behind you. And so that's really the hope of this podcast, is that as you listen, you'll be inspired to live intentionally, live by design rather than default. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest ways we live by default is when it comes to the holidays.
The holiday season.
The holiday season.
Yes.
You know, it feels like, oh, it's Labor Day. Like, great, that's awesome. Then Halloween, woohoo. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Thanksgiving's coming. And then Christmas. And you're like, oh my goodness. And then I feel like oftentimes the holidays just happen to me.
Yes.
Rather than me actually being like, oh, excited for them and designed and planned out. And so we want to take some time today to talk about what it looks like to live by design rather than default when it comes to the holidays. So first one we're going to talk about.
And I do realize that your statement may be somewhat polarizing. There are those people that are like ready for Christmas. They're doing the things. So if you're one of those people, like, you're good. But we're speaking to people like us, right? Who just have a lack of intentionality around the holidays. And you often end the holiday feeling like, I ate way too much.
Yeah.
I feel disgusting. I spent way too much
way too much on toys that are now broken.
Right. We didn't do the traditions that we wanted to do.
We missed out because of.
And you kind of end it with like regret. Like you had this like idea of what it could be. And then none of it truly happened. So if you're one of those, like us, a little bit.
You're not
don't
wrong.
get us wrong. I mean, we love our holidays, like all of the memories, all the things.
Absolutely. Like our Christmas tree up by the 20th of December. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Okay, so let's
jump into this.
Approach this holiday season with a little bit more intentionality.
By design.
Let's do it.
Let's design this thing.
All right, so let's get to it. One of the
Presents.
Presents.
Present. Thank you.
What I've found is if I start buying presents too early, then I actually forget that I bought them, and then I end up overspending.
That's a thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right? I spend way too much, and I'm like, oh crap, I spent twice as much as I was supposed to. So I think I need a little bit of planning or design around that. So
yeah, or if you get going with presents way too late, you just buy crap.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I got to get something.
Like you got to get, so you just, whatever. You buy stuff that like really means nothing to the person you're giving it to. Yeah. And when it's your kids, like you end up throwing those toys away the next year to make room for more of the new toys, the crap that you're going to buy.
Yeah. So, okay, so what are some thoughts around being intentional about budgeting or designing like your presents? What are your thoughts?
One of my thoughts is sitting down and having a really clear discussion as a couple around the budget. Not only like what are you going to spend on each of the kids, but really thinking through like what gifts are we giving to other family members and like even friends. Because I feel like that can be a thing where it's like, oh, someone gave me a gift. Now I have to go buy them a gift. Yeah. And like there's a little this weird kind of like
guilt giving.
Guilt giving.
Yeah.
And so you end up spending just more money than you ever realized and not really setting the overall budget appropriately, given all the people you ended up buying gifts for.
Yeah.
So I think it's really great if you sit down as a couple and you first just understand what amount of money do we have to spend on the holiday season. And that could include decor. That can get expensive. And all the extra things that kind of go into
parties, the big
the
dinner, the
entertainment,
different thing.
So you want to be like really thinking through that because Christmas is an amazing time of year. And those memories, of course, are absolutely like precious, but we don't want to be putting ourselves into some real financial like hot water just because we didn't approach it intentionally.
And I do think even when it comes to the kids, like I think being intentional with what you get them, and this is something we've talked about because the kids have a bunch of different grandparents and a bunch of different people. Like grandparents aren't going to buy practical things; they're going to buy fun things. So that means as parents, sometimes you have to be like, yeah, we're buying the underwear. I'm sorry, underwear and socks, Christmas. This is what it is,
Yes.
right? And so, like being okay with being like, well, I'm going to be the practical one. And I mean, maybe you have it differently. Maybe like you're the fun one and the grandparents are the practical ones. Okay, great. But just making sure the kids are getting the practical and the fun, I think that's huge. Otherwise, if it's just all practical, the kids are like, well, this is lame. If it's just all fun, you're like, okay, well, I have to spend $200 or $300 more in the next quarter to buy clothes and shoes that could have been purchased for Christmas. And right there, it's literally two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
I think if you hear anything from this, I think being intentional about, intentional and thought out and not reactive or impulsive when it comes to overspending on presents for friends or family or even parties or decor. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Be intentional about it. Design it out.
Just one other last note on presents. One thing I hear pretty often, like not just within our family, but from people is like, you know, I want to focus more on like experiences than just buying gifts that will get thrown away. And so that just takes a little bit more time. And so if you're one of those people that's like, okay, I'm done buying all the stuff. Like I want to have more of the experiences. That just takes a little bit more forethought and intentionality. And so think about that now. Get going on that now because I love that idea, but it always becomes too late in the game to try to figure it out. And then that's when we're dashing to Amazon or Target to try to fill up the rest of, you know, their stocking or make sure everybody has equal gifts.
I do think with like an experience like that, generally you're going to be traveling somewhere or buying tickets to something, whether that's a show or whether that's airline tickets or whatnot. That's always more work than you realize.
Yeah.
Like between the inspiration, the aha, to the actual presentation, you have this mid part called perspiration where you actually have to work hard to make that happen. So don't underestimate the time it takes to make that happen.
The next thing is parties.
Parties, woo!
Which really is all about your schedule time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The holiday season starts arguably. Some people have already started at
It
the
starts
beginning of
early and
November,
earlier every year.
But arguably,
Every year.
it starts right around Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah,
and goes
for
till
sure.
about New Year's. Okay, although that's a large amount of time, like there's so much we're trying to cram in.
Oh my goodness.
And it goes so quick.
Yes.
And I feel like you and I, we've been bad at this, where it's like we're not planning ahead and really determining like what traditions we want to do this year, what we want it to feel like and look like for our family. We're not calling out a date, getting it on the calendar. Then you get invited to all these different parties, right?
Yep.
And everybody wants you to come to their thing, their function. There's all kinds of things for kids. And your schedule just
Blows up.
completely like books out. And now you're doing everybody else's Christmas traditions or desires rather than your own.
Yeah. You're not actually creating your own memories as a family. You're kind of delegating that to everyone else and relegating that to them. And so they're off, your kids are off creating wonderful memories with other people, but not necessarily you.
Or just doing things that, yes, that's fun, it's festive, but it's not what really makes you feel like this is how I want to celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever.
And so I do think that's so incredibly important when you talk about your calendar. Like start early looking at your calendar saying, okay, what are strategic things we want to do? What days do we want to do them? What do we want to do this year? It doesn't have to be like 10 things, you know, maybe 2 or 3 things, you know, or maybe one big thing, you know, hey, let's go to this show this day. And we're going to celebrate as a family. This is what we're going to do. Well, it still takes planning and intentionality and putting that date on the calendar and then protecting that date. Because I promise once you put a date on the calendar, you'll get invited to 3 different things on that day. And it's going to make you be like, oh, shoot, did we choose the wrong day? No, you didn't. If it works for you, keep it, protect it, guard it. Don't give it to anybody. Because if you're really trying to create memories as a family, it's so important to protect that.
And this comment is going to lead us into our last tip.
Dun,
But
dun, dun.
with that,
yes,
you protecting something that is a tradition that you want to start, or just something that you want to do,
continue.
right? Like,
yeah.
You putting that on the calendar and protecting it may mean that you're saying no and literally disappointing somebody in your family.
Or disappointing or living in FOMO, because guess what? Man, I'm with this, but that looked really great. And then you see their, the pictures from on social media, you're like, oh, wish I would have been there. Don't. Like, be present, enjoy. But yes, the family component.
So the family, that can be such a challenging thing within the holiday season, is just balancing all of the family activities, events.
And when we say family, we do mean like extended family. Like, this is like in-laws, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all of the outer ring extended family. So that's really what we're talking about, because that can be like, okay, so is it, whose parents is it? And we're unique because it's like both of us were widowed. And so is it my family of origin, or is it my wife who passed away, her family of origin? Or is it your family of origin, or your husband who passed away, his family of origin?
Who gets the most coveted,
the most
like
sacred
holiday
dates.
day, like
Yes.
Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving? Like, it feels like this really tenuous, sensitive topic, and it can be so difficult to navigate because you feel like no matter what you do, you're letting someone else down, potentially really hurting, someone's feelings. And so I guess overall, our biggest message is that your first and foremost priority is your family nucleus.
Yeah.
That is what you're really trying to protect. That's the family that you do need to create your own traditions. Like, when you're thinking about celebrating the holidays, they're the ones that you want to make sure you're creating these unique memories and experiences with first and foremost. That's your first priority. And then, of course, we want to celebrate with our extended family. Absolutely. Grandparents, cousins, sisters, brothers, they're incredibly important. That celebration shouldn't cause us in our family nucleus to miss out on time together.
Yeah.
That can't be sacrificed. The family nucleus cannot be sacrificed for the extended family.
Please or appease.
And that's the piece that can be really challenging and difficult to navigate.
Yeah, I think about that. I think about the idea of, ultimately, if you are busy trying to appease and win the approval of everyone else around you, like, then you'll lose, and your family will lose. In your family, your kids will be confused by, like, didn't we do that last time? Why are we doing this? And it becomes this, you get pulled multiple different directions, and ultimately you feel like you're disappointing almost everyone down. It just doesn't feel good.
So if you're somebody who feels like, oh my gosh, that's us, we don't have any traditions or like time that we protect as a family nucleus. Everything is with the extended family, and that's not what we want. Just some encouragement, because that was a really difficult thing for us to try to navigate as a blended family when we first got married. We had to shake up a lot of the traditions that we were used to doing, because now there's this new family created.
Yeah.
Just know that in the first year that you're making changes and you're saying, nope, actually we're going to prioritize Christmas Eve just with us together. And we'll see you on Christmas Day or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is. It's not always going to be a popular decision, but it is the right decision for you to decide like what you want to prioritize for your family. And so this is where you have to just really kind of dig deep and understand, like, this isn't about pleasing people. We love our family and we're going to spend time with them, but it's okay to make some changes and to put some boundaries in place with that.
And even some of the people that might not be pleased with it might be the ones within your own home, the kids.
Yes.
Because they're like,
Yeah.
well, this is what we've done before, or why can't we do what we've always done? And it's like, well, it's different now. And so we're now creating our own traditions, our own memories, our own togetherness as we blend together as a family. And I think one of the really practical tools that can help with that is encouraging the extended family to meet on not the exact day. Like not on Thanksgiving or not on Christmas, because like, hey, this is for us, like especially Christmas, like I do want to have like Christmas Eve at home, and I do want to have, the Christmas, like let's do this at home. And then Christmas morning, I actually want to wake up in my own bed and walk out into my own living room, and have the kids sleep in their own beds. And I don't want to transport all the gifts someplace to transport them home. Like I just want, and so maybe that makes me a bit of a Grinch, but it doesn't. I promise you it doesn't. It just makes me like, this is our family. Like these are the Wendts. This is who we are. And it's a chance for us to spend time with, quite frankly, the most important people in our lives.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Sometimes, when you're changing traditions, the kids are not going to be excited about it. Stand firm. After you have that time together, usually they're already bought in. Now, they loved that. That was really special. And sometimes they're not. Like, let's be honest, right? Our first 4th of July when we did something different, that was rough, right?
It's really bad.
But we've had to stand our ground a little bit, and now we do have different traditions, and the kids love it. And like now they brag about stuff that they used to complain about, like that was the best thing ever. And so it is possible. It won't always be easy in the beginning.
It sounds, even as we talk about it, it might sound like, wow, must be nice for you guys, or oh my goodness, like you make it sound so simple, but it's actually quite difficult. And it is quite difficult.
It is.
And that's why you have to be strong in it, and you have to draw the line, and you have to truly live by design in it. Otherwise, you'll just default every holiday away to the loudest voice in your life, or to the voice that you don't want to disappoint the most. And what happens is you'll sacrifice who you are to please those around you. And when it comes to your family, when it comes to your children, when it comes to the family that you are creating and want to perpetuate and create a legacy and a positive wake for, you have to stand strong, and you have to be willing to design it in such a way that it probably will cost you something. There'll be some hard conversations with grandparents, with family members, with whatnot, saying, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. We love you, we want to be with you, but just not on Christmas Day. Like we actually, like how about the weekend after? How about open your mind to other days than the 25th. And maybe you're like in a place where like, no, we do that already. That's fantastic. You got to figure it out. Keep going. If you're not in that space, be strong enough to design it on purpose. I promise you, you'll be glad you did.
And if you do, you're giving your kids a gift as well, because you're showing them when they get married one day and when they have their own babies, and they want to wake up on Christmas morning in their house and do the Christmas morning thing with their husband and their children or whatever. You've led by example, and they know that you have value for that, and that they know that it's safe to like, hey, okay, we're going to do our own thing now, because you've led in that way.
And even encouraged, like from the standpoint, that's the model that was set forth for them. So why wouldn't they continue to perpetuate that? And so honestly, that's like the biggest goal, like for our kids. Like I want them to feel the freedom, weird as it sounds, feel the freedom to build their own family in a healthy manner, apart from like, you're always my son, you're always my daughter, you're always her son, always. That's not it. That's not healthy. It needs to be like, hey, here's some clear boundaries around it. And we love you, but we're having Christmas at home. Or we love you, and I know you love us. Like you go have Christmas with your family. That's the idea. Well, I'm sure you know this, but also like it's one of the reasons why there's so much anxiety and loneliness around the holidays, because people feel so isolated, or they feel like they're disappointed, or they feel just run down. But I encourage you, really, truly fight for what your family wants, what you want your family to look like. Design that, and then it's going to be tough the first couple years, but I promise you, it will be worth it. We're like, is this 4 Christmases now we're coming up on? And it's amazing. It's amazing. It's not always perfect. I mean, we miss different family members, but it really, truly is like, wow.
We've created our own family together, the blended family. That was difficult. So if we can do it though, you guys can do it.
Absolutely. Just, I encourage you, design it, see it, and then see it through. So I'm Jeff, Ali, Wake Coaching. If you enjoyed it, I encourage you, subscribe, Share this with other people too. I know as the holidays are coming up, we hit on some tough topics here today that can at least give some insight. Hopefully it gave some insight to you today, and it could give insight to some of your friends as well. So,
and we wish you an amazing
yeah, Merry Christmas.
holiday
and
season.
Happy holidays.
Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas.